Welcome back to another installment of Everything NHL. I'm your host, Nathan, and we're here with our hockey expert, James Kumar.
Hey, what's up, man?
So this week we're going to go over Thursday's games. We'll go over some of Friday's games. If they're done, we'll look over the scores as well. We'll talk about some pickups you can take a look at, and then we'll preview Saturday's games.
All right, sounds good. Let's hop into it.
All right, so we'll start with first game of Thursday, Arizona versus Tampa Bay. Pretty dominant performance by Tampa Bay. They were able to win 5-1. In the first period, Alex Killorn with 2 goals and Steven Stamkos with a goal. Alex Barré-Boulet with a 4th goal for Tampa Bay in the second period, and Andre Schuster in the third period for Tampa Bay again. To close out the game 5-1, and for Arizona, we had Lawson Cruz for Arizona, their only goal of the game. What are your thoughts?
Honestly, Tampa Bay needed a game where they could sort of make things right. I know they had been losing a few, and yeah, they did it against an Arizona team that just really doesn't look strong this year. Tampa has a winning record now, 4-3-1. They're sort of turning it around after a rough start. Of course, they're without Nikita Kucherov for maybe 8 more weeks or so. So it's going to be tough, but they are playing well. And then as for the Coyotes, 0-6-1. I don't even know when they're going to win their first game of the season. I know we're recording on a Friday. They played again and they didn't win. So 0-7-1 now. So yeah, I'm really not sure when this Coyotes team's going to get a win.
Yeah, it's going to be a long season for Arizona.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I guess we'll move on to the next game in the slate. We have Calgary with a really dominant performance against Pittsburgh, a shutout basically. In the first period, we had Johnny Gaudreau, and no goals in the second period. But in the third period, we had Blake Coleman, Dylan Dubé, and Milan Lucic. And what are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, dominant performance by Calgary. They've been so hot to start the season, 5-1-1. It really seems like this team's finally clicking. And I guess as for Pittsburgh, there had to be a down game eventually without a lot of their stars, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, and Carter. And I mean, this was it. They couldn't get any goals. They've started out well, 3-2-2. I mean, people probably thought it would be a lot worse without all those guys, but they're still managing to, get wins here and there. So I can't really fault Pittsburgh on this. Calgary is just a better team.
Yeah, I guess for Pittsburgh, it's pretty much their B team more or less trying to stand in the gap until the main guys come back. And I guess when you take that into perspective, they're actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that they are doing really well.
For sure. And I guess moving on to another team that's doing really well, we have Carolina with their own shutout against Boston. It's a really difficult team to get a shutout on. In the first period, we had Tony DeAngelo. In the second period, we had Nino Niederreiter, and we had Andrei Svechnikov in the third period. What are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, so Carolina's pretty much just been playing so solid to start the year. They're 6-0. I mean, they scored 1 goal in every period. They held Boston to nothing. I mean, Boston has been pretty good this year. I know they have played some tough teams. They've also played some easy teams as well. So they have a middling record right now. I don't know how strong Boston's going to be down the stretch, but all I know is that this Carolina team is really strong offensively, defensively. And now with Freddie Anderson as their goalie, I mean, you got to shout out in this game. He's just been so solid. And I mean, yeah, this team might actually get over the top this year. I really like them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Calgary, they've been trying to make progress last season. Last season didn't really work out too much, but it looks like their progress kind of carried over to this season as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Tampa Bay knocked out Carolina in the playoffs last year. But yeah, that doesn't seem to phase them. They seem to be right back on track this year, and they're looking really strong again.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the next game, we have Colorado versus St. Louis. This one was a really close game. Um, Colorado was able to take this game 4-3. So in the first period, we had JT for Colorado and Colton Parayko for St. Louis. And in the second period, we had JT Compher again with the second goal of the game and Nazem Kadri for Colorado as well. And in the third period, we had Cale Makar for Colorado and Braden Shen and Vladimir Tarasenko for St. Louis. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a game where Colorado knew they had to come in and sort of try and turn their record around. They were like, what, 2-4 coming in. Not a good way to start the season. And I mean, yeah, they get it done. St. Louis was undefeated coming into this game, so this is their first loss of the season. I'm not going to put it on this team. They've been really solid. I think both of these two teams are probably the two best teams in that Central Division from what I've seen so far. Obviously, Colorado hasn't played like it. St. Louis has seemed like the more dominant team. Obviously, St. Louis is a lot healthier than they are last year. They're a lot deeper than they were last year. So I feel like if they met up with Colorado again in the playoffs, it wouldn't be as dominant as Colorado was last year. I feel like it would be a lot closer. These are two really solid teams. So I'm not going to judge Colorado by their record right now. I think they're pretty much in the league with St. Louis at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I guess for Colorado, it's just we know the potential's there. They just have to meet it.
Yeah, and I mean, they've been without guys for some games as well. They should have had a winning record by now if they would have had everyone in the lineup. But I think as they get players back, they'll keep getting a lot more wins.
For sure. And I guess speaking of more wins, Philadelphia with their next win against the Vancouver Canucks, 2-1, really close game, really defensive game. All the goals were in the first period as well, which is really interesting. Sean Couturier and James Van Riemsdyk for Philadelphia and Quinn Hughes for Vancouver. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you started watching in the first period, within the first 7 minutes of the first period, 3 goals were scored. You probably thought this game was going to be a crazy scoring game. And then nothing happened after that. So if you watched the first period, I think you pretty much watched the whole game here. And yeah, Flyers, they've been really hot. They've won like 4 out of their first 6 games. Insane. Vancouver, they're sort of a middle of the pack type team. They have been playing pretty well. Obviously, they need to score a little bit more, as we saw from this game. Yeah, just overall, the Flyers, I mentioned that I feel like they're going to bounce back this year. They have looked good so far. We'll see if they can keep it up. They did look good last year, but they kind of fell off. So we'll see. They're a deep team as well. So that's what I like about Philadelphia. And then as for Vancouver, I mean, they have been solid, maybe not solid enough. I think that's sort of where I am at with Vancouver. Just being, a little bit better at scoring, a little bit better at defense. Their goaltending has been good. So I wouldn't really panic too much with this Canucks team.
For sure. And I guess we'll move on to another really surprising game with Buffalo taking a game against the Anaheim Ducks. Buffalo's been really good this season. They were able to clutch this out in overtime. Zemgus Girgensson for Buffalo in the first period. Rasmus Asplund and Arttu Ruotsalainen for Buffalo, and Troy Terry and Adam Henrique for Anaheim. And in the third period, we had Simon Benoit, and in overtime, Rasmus Asplund was able to clutch the game out for Buffalo. And what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, like you said, they have been playing really well. They've won 5 out of their first 7 games. A really hot start for them. Anaheim, they were looking good at the beginning of the year. They've really fallen off. I think they're 0-3-2 in their past 5 games. So no wins in their past 5 games for the Ducks. Yeah, Buffalo clearly playing better. They're getting a lot out of the coach is getting a lot out of the team. And yeah, we'll see how long Buffalo can continue this stretch for. I know they might fall off eventually, but they are looking good right now. And then I guess as for the Ducks, we knew they'd sort of be like that rebuilding type team. So the expectations weren't too high. So I'm not really concerned about them. I think they're sort of in the spot where we thought they would be.
I think one thing I guess I was going for Buffalo was they had a pretty decent strength of schedule. So most of the teams that they were facing were beatable for Buffalo, and they've been able to capitalize on it so far.
Yeah, I mean, you play the schedule you're given. You got to beat the easier teams, and that's what they're doing. So good on the Sabres.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the next game, we have Seattle beating Minnesota Wild, so quite an upset. In the first period, we have Ryan Hartman and for Minnesota and Hayden Fleury for Seattle. Hayden Fleury again in the second period, and then Brandon Tanev and Mark Giordano both for Seattle in the third. So the first period goal for Minnesota was their only goal of the game. And what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, this Minnesota team was really hot to start the year. I believe this is Cam Talbot's first loss of the season. He's been really solid for the Wild as well. And then I guess for Seattle, I mean, yeah, they really needed the win. They've been sort of not playing the best to start the year. I mean, they are an expansion team. We have to cut them some slack. Not everyone is going to have the crazy start like Vegas did in their first year. That's like a once in a lifetime expansion team. But Seattle, they're a more down to earth expansion team. Expectations aren't too high, but solid win for them in this game.
Yeah, for sure, especially against a team like Minnesota.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Minnesota, this is just one loss. I wouldn't read too much into it. This is a solid team. They should be a playoff team this year.
Yeah. And I guess moving on to our next game, we have Winnipeg beating the LA Kings. Pierre-Luc Dubois in the first period and Rasmus Kapayu for LA in the first period. In the second period, we had Adrian Kemp for LA. And in the third period, we had Andrew Kopp and Pierre-Luc Dubois again for Winnipeg. And what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, this Jets team's really turned it around after a rough start. They've won like what 4 wins in a row or something like that. Like the Jets they're just flying right now. The Kings, they've lost 6 games in a row, are really not looking that great. They have a lot of injuries. Um, I think the Kings might need one more year to maybe keep building their team to maybe challenge for a playoff spot, especially with all the injuries this year. I don't think they'll be challenging for one. And then for the Jets, yeah, this is definitely a solid team. They're probably one of the top 3 teams in the Central right now, probably behind Colorado and St. Louis. So I definitely like what's going for the Jets this year.
And I guess unfortunately for the Kings, it's looking kind of like a write-off at this point.
I would hope not, but with all the injuries they have, especially on defense, I mean, what are they like? What are they going to do? Like they were leading in the game and they let up in the third period because of the inexperience from the defense, right? So it's going to be really tough for the Kings going forward until they get some defensemen back. I think one defenseman tore his ACL, so he's out for the year. Drew Doughty's out for a good chunk of the year, and yeah, their defense is really depleted this year.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. And I guess moving on, we have, I guess, another surprising game. Montreal got a much-needed win, or much-needed win against San Jose. A shutout, basically. So 4-0. Mike Hoffman in the first, Alexander Romanov and Brendan Gallagher in the second period, and Josh Anderson in the third. Really dominant performance by Montreal. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, my thoughts are Mike Hoffman's looked so solid since he's come back from injury. I think he has 3 goals in like 4 games, something crazy like that. Like he's been so solid for them. And then Romanov, Gallagher, and Anderson all got their first goals of the year. These guys, a lot of them just couldn't get anything going to start the year, and now they have goals, which is good. Then as for the Sharks, yeah, they won their first 4, but they've lost their last 3. So it's a little troubling for them. They got to get things turned around. And then as for Jake Allen, it's his best game he's played for Montreal so far this season. So good on him getting the shutout.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess hopefully Montreal can continue this performance.
Yeah, I mean, they have to at least get a respectable record until Price comes back. We don't know when that's going to be. Obviously, a lot of their other guys haven't been playing well. So, yeah, hopefully they can turn things around for sure.
For sure. And I guess moving on to some of Friday's games, some of them have finished. So we'll start with the Florida game against Detroit. Um, Basically, Florida was able to clutch this out in overtime, 3-2. In the first period, we had Weto Luster-Rennen for Florida and Alexander Barkov for Florida as well. And in the second period, we had Sam Gagner. And in the third period, we had Pius Suter to tie the game up. And Alexander Barkov was able to clutch the game for Florida What are your thoughts about this game?
Yeah, I mean, this is Florida's first game without their coach. Obviously, he was released after everything that had happened. And I mean, this team just didn't skip a beat. They're still undefeated on the year, 8-0. This Panthers team, they look really strong either way. Hopefully, Andrew Burnett's going to be a solid interim coach for them. And then as for Detroit, I mean, even with this overtime loss, they still have 4 wins in their first 8 games. So no one expected Detroit to be this solid. So they're playing really well. And I mean, Florida, they look like the hottest team in the league right now. I don't think anyone's stopping them right now. I don't even know when they're going to get their first loss, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, both teams have been looking so solid, especially Florida.
Yeah, I mean, like some teams like Carolina are 6-0. I mean, Florida's 8-0. So if they go their first 10 games 10-0, that's insane.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're probably going to be like maybe like I guess the best in their division, or at least number two at the lowest.
Yeah, I mean, they are playing Boston on Saturday in Boston. So that's going to be their biggest test. Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how they do there.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we'll move on to our next game. We have another shutout. I guess with the New York Rangers shutting out the Columbus Blue Jackets 4-0. We had Ryan Strome and Alex Lafreniere in the first period. And in the third period, Chris Kreider was able to get 2 goals to, I guess, finish the game off. What are your thoughts about this performance by New York?
I mean, the Rangers are pretty much in stride now. They're playing really solid. They're like 5-2-1 on the season, near the top of their division. Definitely like what they've done with their team. They definitely have a really solid team right now. And as for Columbus, I mean, they're 4-3. No one really expects them to do anything this year since they pretty much tore everything down last year. So I mean, they have good young pieces. I guess we'll see how they continue to play. And yeah, both teams obviously they're in the same division. The Rangers are looking really strong right now.
Yeah, I guess this is a pretty good trajectory for both teams, even though Columbus isn't, I guess, maybe looking the best if they were trying to push for a playoff, but it doesn't look like they're trying to do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Columbus makes the playoffs, that's pretty much a bonus at this point because I don't really think that's in their. Obviously, the players, it's in their mindset, but I don't think in terms of the management plan for this team, I don't think that that's sort of in the books for them.
Yeah, and I guess moving on to another shutout, we have the Arizona Coyotes versus the Washington Capitals, and Washington was able to get 2 goals in the third to clutch the game out. John Carlson and Alex Ovechkin, they were able to get 2 goals in the third for the shutout. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Alex Ovechkin's just insane what he's doing at this age. He's like 34 or 35 and he's leading the league in goals. I mean, he's going to have like 10 in October probably since this is his ninth. So I mean, if he scores 10 every month, he's going to have like 60 this year. I mean, he's just been playing out of his mind. And then yeah, this Capitals team, they're just on a roll. They haven't lost a game in regulation time. They're like 5-0-3 this year. We mentioned Arizona, they get another loss. So yeah, Arizona, they're at the basement of the league. They don't have much talent on their team, so that's probably why they're there. And then for the Capitals, yeah, they're looking strong like they normally do.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we can move on to a really dominant performance. Carolina Hurricanes getting 6 goals against Chicago's 3, so a really high scoring game. In the first period, we have a whole bunch of goals. Brandon Hagel in the first, Tony DeAngelo for Carolina in the first, and then Adam Gaudette responded for Chicago, and then Jordan Staal responded for Carolina, and then Derek Stepan and Jesperi Kotkaniemi were both able to get 2 more goals for Carolina. So really high scoring first period. And then in the second period, Sebastian Aho and Andrin Svechnikov got 2 more goals for Carolina. And Alex DeBrincat was able to get another goal for Chicago, but unfortunately it wasn't enough to match up with Carolina. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this Carolina team, they're probably the second best team behind Florida. I mean, they're at 7-0. They're looking really good. I mean, they did allow some goals, but obviously their backup goalie was in tonight. I believe Antti Ranta was the goalie. So yeah, like I won't fault them there. And then as for Chicago, 6-2 is not a great way to start. They have on the ice issues, they have off the ice issues. This team just really needs to turn things around. I don't know what's going on here with them, but yeah, there's definitely needs to be some turnaround for Chicago for sure.
Yeah, I don't think this was the start that they were expecting at all, especially considering on paper, Chicago should be one of the better teams in the division.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This is really not the way they wanted to start the season for sure.
And I guess the other two games are still going on. Vegas is leading Anaheim in the third period 3-1, and Ottawa is leading Dallas 3-1 in the second. So we won't be going over those games. So that pretty much wraps up I guess the recap. And I guess we'll move on to pickups, and we'll start with forwards. So who do you got for forwards?
All right, I'll start with forwards for I guess centers. I'll go with Josh Norris from Ottawa. I mean, he has been playing pretty solid to start the year. I believe in this game that's currently going on right now, he has 2 goals. So I didn't like when I was picking these guys for pickups. This was before the game started on Friday. So yeah, he has 2 goals in this game. Power play point, 2 shots and a hit. He's getting like shots and hits. I think last game 3 shots, 3 hits, and then 5 shots, 2 hits the game before that. 2 shots, 2 hits, 3 shots, 2 hits. Like he's just getting categories. He's covering everything. And on a team like Ottawa that, maybe they would get some minuses, he's been he's been even or plus every game of the season. So this Josh Norris guy, if you need centers, he's under 50% roster in Yahoo leagues. Definitely go at him. He's really solid. And then for wingers, Lucas Raymond, rookie from Detroit. I know he did have that like hat trick game a couple games ago, but he had an assist the game after that. His plus minus has been solid. He's only been a minus in 1 game the entire season. He's been getting points in almost every game, shots in every game. The only thing he won't get for you is hits. So that's definitely something that you won't be getting from him. But everything else, he's really solid. And then the other winger that I have is Victor Olofsson from the Buffalo Sabres. He's in the top 50 in category leagues in Yahoo, but yeah, he's only 25% rostered. So this is definitely a guy you should be adding. He is the most talented offensive player currently on this Buffalo team without Jack Eichel. So definitely you need to be adding this guy. 2 assists in the Thursday game. He had 2 goals in the game before that. He's getting like almost 3 shots a game. He's getting points. His plus minus, he hasn't been minus all season. So definitely go add this guy. He's going to be really solid. And yeah, that's my forwards.
For sure. And I guess for my forwards, I'll start with center uh, Ivan Barbashev. At the moment, he's about 18% rostered. He's on a St. Louis team that is they're really hot right now, and Ivan Barbashev is also been playing pretty solid. So if you need a pick in a deep league, you could definitely take a look at him. And for right wing, I have Zach Ashin for the Edmonton Oilers. He's also been pretty hot right now. I think for the season, he has 3 goals, 2 assists, and 4 shots. He is -1, but for the most part, that shouldn't be too much of a problem, especially if you're in a deeper league. And I guess for my other winger, I have Zemgus Girgensson for Buffalo. He's again more of a deep league pick, so it's more of like if you have like 1 week of one, if you need someone for like 1 week, or if you have injuries on your shallow league, he's more of someone you can take a look at. But he's been really hot for I guess a guy who's only 2% rostered. He has 3 goals, 3 assists. He's +5 with 15 shots, so there's a lot of value, especially if you're in a deep league. And that's who I got for forwards. So who do you got for defense?
Yeah, for defense, I have Evan Bouchard again. I talked about him last week. Like his ice time just keeps increasing for the Oilers. The Oilers are also a solid team. He's only been -1 game the whole year. A lot of games he's getting 4 shots or more. So for a defenseman, that's crazy because normally they don't shoot that much. He is playing on the power play. He hasn't gotten as many points yet this year, but if his ice time keeps going up, he's going to be getting exposure to guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and some of the top players on the Oilers. So if you're projecting a breakout for a defenseman, definitely go check him out. And then I have Gustav Forsling from the Florida Panthers. He's only around 25% rostered. He's been only minus one game the whole season. I think one game, the one against Boston, he had like 3 assists in that game. He's been getting shots on goal. Definitely go add this guy. He's has been really solid. If you need like a fifth or sixth defenseman for your team, he's definitely someone you should be looking at. And that's who I have for defenseman.
For sure. And I guess for defense, I guess I will talk about Rasmus Anderson. He's been pretty good right now for the Calgary Flames. He's another, I guess, deep league defenseman that you can take a look at. He has about 4 assists, 7 shots, and he's +9. So if you need a lot of plus minus, he's definitely someone that you can take a look at. And I guess I'll talk about Radko Gudas as well. It's about 48% rostered. He's another guy that gives you a lot of plus minus, gives you a lot of shots, and he also gives you a lot of hits as well. He gives you a little bit of assist, but for the most part, you're going to want to look at plus minus and shots. And I guess we'll move on to goalies. So who you got for goalies?
Yeah, my goalie pickup is going to be Thomas Greiss. Honestly, in all the games he's played, he's only lost one. He won the other 3. His stats have they've been pretty insane. Like what he has like a 917 save percentage, 2.55 goals against average, and 3 wins on basically a Detroit team that they're not great. I mean, they have started out really well, but I think he's one of the main reasons why they've started out well. He's outplayed the other goalie there, Alex Nedeljkovic. So, I mean, if you're looking for a guy to stream, I know Nedeljkovic got the loss in the game on Friday, but they are playing a back-to-back. He's playing against Toronto. It's going to be a tough game. Is there a chance that he gets a win? Maybe, because Toronto's sort of been on a back and forth swing. But yeah, he's definitely a goalie you should be rostering, as his statistics are really solid.
For sure. And I guess for my goalie, it's more of riding the wave, I guess. So I'm going to recommend Craig Anderson again for the Buffalo Sabres. Currently 27% rostered. Buffalo, they've been having a really good schedule. I think they've won like 5 out of their last 7 games, which is really good. So he has about 4 wins for the season. His goal against average is 1.98, and his save percent is almost 94%. So he's really hot right now. Buffalo's schedule is going to be still pretty decent, at least until the next week. So if you need a pickup or like a goalie for another week, then you can definitely take a look at him. And I guess that's about it for pickups, and we'll move on to previews now. And I guess we can start with the New York Islanders versus the Nashville Predators. And who do you think takes this game?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not too sure. I think Nashville was favored in this game coming in, but the line sort of flipped and the Islanders are now favored. Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. Maybe I might side with Nashville. They definitely need a bounce back. They haven't been playing well. And I mean, they are at home. The Islanders have this long road trip they're on, so they're bound to lose some going forward. So yeah, I think maybe I might take Nashville here.
For sure. And I guess we can move on to Montreal versus the LA Kings. They're both in need of a win. So I guess who do you think takes it?
Honestly, this game can go either way. It probably just depends who's the goalie for each team. Probably just take a look at that beforehand. Might slightly lean with the Kings since they're home and they didn't play too bad in most of that game against the Jets. I don't know if Montreal can keep up the scoring. Yeah, like I said, this is a game that could go back and forth. I might slightly take the Kings.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the Winnipeg Jets versus the San Jose Sharks. They've both been pretty solid so far, but who do you think takes this?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to keep riding with the Jets. They're so hot right now. Sharks are sort of on a downswing. So just keep riding that momentum until we see anything different than that.
For sure. And moving on to Florida versus Boston. This is going to be, I guess, a tough matchup, but who do you think takes this?
I don't know. Maybe this is where Boston gets the Panthers. I'm sort of feeling like that might be the case. If Florida somehow wins this game, maybe they might even go 82-0. Who knows? But I mean, like, I think this is the game where they get got.
Yeah, I mean, the streak has to end eventually.
Yeah, and I mean Boston's just overdue for a win. Like they've been like middling to start the year. This sort of is the game I feel like where Boston sort of gets it done, but we'll have to see.
For sure. And I guess we can move on to Detroit versus Toronto. Who do you think takes this?
I mean, I gotta go with the Leafs. They're at home. They really need to turn their season around. They got a good win against Chicago. It was a comeback victory, but a win is still a win. Hopefully, they've had a couple days off. They can keep things rolling against a Detroit team that just played Friday night, so they're going to be a little tired. So I definitely like Toronto here.
For sure. And I guess we can move on to New Jersey versus Pittsburgh. And I guess Pittsburgh definitely has more than a chance to beat them.
Yeah, I definitely like Pittsburgh here. They're at home. Both teams are missing players, but I think the Penguins are the stronger overall team, so I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
All right. And moving on to Chicago versus St. Louis. Does Chicago get their sorely needed win?
I can't pick Chicago to get a win until they get one. I'm still going to pick against them every time, especially since the St. Louis team's really hot right now. One loss to Colorado shouldn't derail their momentum. I think they are really solid, so I'm going to pick St. Louis here.
All right. And speaking of Colorado, they're facing Minnesota. Two really solid teams, but who do you think takes this?
Yeah, it's tough to pick against Colorado at home. This game could actually go any which way. Maybe I might slightly lean with the Avalanche since they seem to be turning it around now. But yeah, this game, like I said, can go either way, but I will take Colorado.
All right. So I guess we can move on to the next game. Edmonton versus Vancouver. I'm guessing Edmonton takes this.
You got to keep rolling with the Oilers until they're not hot anymore because yeah, they're one of the hottest teams in the league. He's like clapping at like 3 points a night some games. He's just insane. Yeah, this Oilers team for sure. I have to go with them.
All right. And I guess we'll go ahead to the last game on the slate. We have Philadelphia versus Calgary. Two really solid teams. They're both hot right now, but who do you think takes this game?
Yeah, this is another one that can go either way. I mean, both teams are so solid right now. Calgary's hot, Flyers are hot. I'm gonna have to just go with the home team, I guess, since I can't really pick either way. Maybe Calgary gets it done here. Flyers are due for some regression, I guess, since they are on the road. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Calgary here.
All right. And I guess that brings us to the end of everything NHL. And do you have any final thoughts?
Honestly, some teams have surprised us with how good they've been. For example, Buffalo and others. And some teams just really haven't been good, like Chicago and some of those teams. So yeah, it's full of surprises this season. I think over the next couple episodes or so, things will sort of come down to earth. We'll start to see which are the real teams, which teams, sort of come back down to earth if they were flying higher, which teams sort of bounce back. Like we talked about, there's a chance Montreal sort of bounces back. There's a couple other teams. Tampa Bay already had their bounce back this past week. I think they'll definitely start to build up their record. Colorado's another one of those teams that, could turn things around. So yeah, it's a great overall look at the league. And yeah, it's been a pretty great season so far.
Yeah. I guess my thoughts on Buffalo are, I mean, they did face kind of like weaker teams in the league, but at the same time, the season before, I think they had one of their worst records in the entire league. So I would already consider this them like starting to turn the team around, and this is just only in one season. So far the rebuild's been looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, last season they pretty much hit rock bottom. It's only up from there. If the Jack Eichel trade eventually happens, they definitely want to get some good pieces back for him and sort of help use that to build their team so that they can sort of, like you said, continue to progress through the rebuild.
Sure. And that about wraps up everything NHL for this week. If you liked what you watched, you can definitely subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, give us a like, give us a review, let us know about your thoughts on how the NHL is going so far. And if you liked what you listened to, you can follow us on Spotify. You can also follow us on Apple Music and Google Podcasts. And if you need some sports picks, you can follow us at FanFan Podcast on both Twitter and Instagram. And we'll see you guys next week.